The chaos didn't stop when the staff were escorted out. By midnight, the Frost household had turned into a fortress of confusion and anger. Kirk sat at the edge of the couch, scrolling through message after message, his jaw tightening with every ping from his phone. Rasheeda was pacing the living room, still in her filming outfit, her mic cord dangling from her waist like she'd just walked off set mid-scene. The tension was thick enough to slice through. She turned to him, eyes burning. "So this is what we doing now? They using us like pawns, and nobody told me." Kirk didn't even look up. "It ain't us, Sheeda. It's them. Somebody wanted this out. Somebody wanted to hurt us." Meanwhile, behind the scenes, VH1's crisis management team had already activated what they called containment protocol. Every staff member's email was frozen. Access to footage was restricted. And VH1's legal department was on a 24-hour watch. Producers whispered that Mona Scott had ordered a full digital audit, demanding to know who accessed the Frost storyline files in the past week. What they found shocked everyone: one unauthorized login from an unregistered IP address based in Atlanta's outskirts. The account used belonged to an assistant producer who hadn't shown up for work in 3 days. Rumors spread faster than wildfire. Fans speculated that the leak was part of a deeper feud within production. Some claimed rival producers had grown tired of the Frost storyline dominating airtime. One insider told the Shade Room anonymously, "There's jealousy in the air. Kirk and Rasheeda poll numbers. Not everyone likes that, but others believed it was personal." Whispers hinted that someone close to the Frosts might have leaked it out of revenge. Rasheeda, still reeling, made a late-night call to her mother. "Mama, they trying to destroy everything we built." Shirlene's voice cracked through the speaker. "Baby, you and Kirk been through worse. They can't break what's already been tested." But this time, Rasheeda wasn't sure. She'd survived cheating scandals, fan backlash, even near divorce, but this was betrayal from inside the machine that made them famous. Across town, Kirk's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It read, "Check your email before they delete it." His heart pounded as he opened his inbox. There it was, an attachment labeled confidential_VH1 internal, MP4. He hesitated, then clicked play. The footage showed a dimly lit editing suite. Voices echoed to producers discussing how to spice up the Frost storyline. One of them said, "If we leak just a piece, it'll explode online. We'll get the engagement boost before next season." Kirk's face went cold. "They set us up," he muttered, gripping his phone so hard his knuckles turned white. Rasheeda heard the audio from across the room. "Is that what I think it is?" she asked, her voice trembling. Kirk nodded slowly. "They planned the whole thing. This wasn't an accident." She sank into the couch, staring blankly at the floor. "So we gave them our truth, and they sold it back to us as a headline." The next morning, Atlanta gossip blogs were on fire. Every outlet had a different version of the story. Some said Kirk leaked it himself for publicity. Others claimed Rasheeda staged the outrage for a new spin-off. One headline read, "Love and Hip Hop's power couple caught in VH1 conspiracy, who's really behind the leak?" By noon, paparazzi were outside their boutique, pressing for statements. Rasheeda walked past them, sunglasses on, lips tight. "No comment," she said, her voice low but firm. Inside VH1 headquarters, executives held a tense emergency call. One of them slammed his fist on the table. "We can't afford another scandal like this. Advertisers are already threatening to pull out." Another replied, "We need to contain this before Mona decides to take it off air entirely." But Mona wasn't thinking about pulling the plug, she was thinking about accountability. She had built the love and hip-hop empire on chaos, but this chaos was different. It wasn't scripted, it was personal. By late afternoon, Mona requested a one-on-one with Kirk and Rasheeda. Cameras were banned, phones off, just pure confrontation. When they arrived, Mona greeted them with a look that mixed exhaustion and respect. "I know y'all mad," she began, "and you have every right to be. But let me be clear, this leak didn't come from me or my top team. Someone went rogue." Kirk crossed his arms. "Then why are people talking about spicing up our marriage for engagement?" Mona's tone hardened. "Don't twist it, Kirk. We build storylines, not scandals. If someone broke the code, they gon' pay for it." Rasheeda leaned forward, her voice trembling but strong. "Mona, you know me. I've been loyal to this brand from day one. But if I find out anyone used my pain for clicks, it's done." Mona nodded slowly. "I get it, Sheeda. And I promise you this ain't over." Outside that meeting room, tension spread through the hallways like smoke. Staffers avoided eye contact, whispering about who might be next. 2 editors were called into hour and never returned. Word spread that VH1's parent company had brought in private digital investigators from New York. One insider said they were tracing every file transfer from the last 30 days. Back at home, Rasheeda scrolled through fan comments, tears forming as she read both support and suspicion. "We love you, Rasheeda. Don't let them break your spirit," one fan wrote. Another cruelly added, "Girl, y'all been faking drama for years. What's new?" She turned the screen off and whispered, "They don't even know the half of it." Kirk walked in, sitting beside her. "Let 'em talk. Truth's gonna come out soon." She looked at him, eyes full of doubt. "You sure about that? Because right now, it feels like everyone's lying." That same night, a new twist hit the internet. An alleged screenshot from an internal VH1 group chat leaked, showing crew members discussing the Frost footage drop. One line read, "Monetize the chaos before Monday." Fans went wild. VH1 immediately denied it, calling the screenshots fabricated, but the damage was done. #VH1 leak trended again, and people demanded a public statement from Mona Scott. While fans fought online, Kirk received another mysterious text. "If you want the truth, meet me at Lenox Square parking lot at 10 p.m. Come alone." He didn't tell Rasheeda. He grabbed his keys and left quietly. Under the flickering parking lights, a shadowy figure stepped forward. It was the missing assistant producer. Kirk clenched his fists. "You..." The man looked terrified. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he said. "They told me to leak a small clip to stir engagement, but then somebody else took the full footage and sold it." Kirk's voice was low, dangerous. "Who's they?" The producer hesitated. "The digital promo team. They got orders from higher up, not Mona, someone above her." Kirk's eyes widened. Above Mona. Meanwhile, Rasheeda's phone rang. It was Mona. "Where's Kirk?" she asked urgently. Rasheeda frowned. "He said he was stepping out." Mona sighed. "Tell him to call me now. There's something he needs to know." Rasheeda's heart raced as she hung up. She had no idea that at that exact moment, Kirk was standing face to face with the man who held the key to the entire leak. The producer reached into his bag, pulling out a small USB drive. "This has everything: emails, voice notes, proof it was planned from corporate." Kirk took it, his hand trembling. "Why you telling me this now?" The man looked around nervously. "Because they're deleting everything tomorrow. Once it's gone, no one will ever know the truth." Kirk's phone buzzed. Rasheeda calling, but he ignored it. His mind was spinning. So this whole time, it wasn't just about ratings, it was about control. When he finally returned home past midnight, Rasheeda was waiting at the door, arms crossed. "Where you been?" Kirk handed her the USB. "This is it, Sheeta. Proof they tried to bury us." She looked down at it, then back at him. "And what are we supposed to do with it?" He stared back, eyes hard. "We go public." Rasheeda froze. "You mean leak it?" Kirk nodded. "They wanted a story, they're about to get one." She hesitated, thinking of their brand, their contracts, their family. "If we do this, there's no going back." Kirk's voice dropped to a whisper. "There already ain't no going back." And as the clock struck 2 a.m., the Frost house went dark. The glow of a single laptop screen reflecting off their faces as Kirk slid the USB into the port, unaware that outside, a black SUV sat idling down the street, its tinted windows watching every move they made. The laptop screen flickered as the file directory opened. Hundreds of folders lining the screen, timestamps, emails, unedited confessionals, and buried drafts of storylines that were never supposed to see daylight. Kirk leaned closer, scrolling fast, whispering under his breath, "This is bigger than we thought." Rasheeda crossed her arms, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Rasheeda crossed her arms, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. "You sure this ain't some setup?" Kirk didn't answer. His cursor stopped on a folder titled VH1 Confidential, Frost Project. He double-clicked it. Inside were files named Raw Meeting, Audio, Editor Notes, and Executive Memo, PDF. He opened the memo. The words glowed on screen. Approved strategy. Audience manipulation. Via controlled leak objective. Create authenticity spike before reunion taping. Rasheeda gasped. They actually wrote it down. They called it manipulation. Kirk's face hardened. They used us like chess pieces. Like our marriage was a marketing plan. He scrolled further, finding internal emails between the digital promo team and senior executives. One of them saying, "We can afford backlash if it trends. Damage control will boost next week's trailer." Outside, the SUV engine cut off. Two figures stepped out, dressed in dark clothes, whispering into earpieces. One of them pointed toward the Frost house. "They're still awake," he said quietly. "Orders?" The voice on the other end replied, "Recover the data. Do not let it go public." Inside, Rasheeda noticed something through the blinds. "Kirk, someone's outside." He rushed to the window, spotting the shadowy figures near the driveway. "Get your phone," he said quickly. But before she could dial, the doorbell rang. Slow and deliberate. The air turned electric. Kirk unplugged the USB, slipped it into his pocket, and whispered, "Don't say a word." He opened the door halfway. Two men stood there with fake smiles and network badges hanging around their necks. "Mr. Frost," one began, "we're from VH1's compliance division. Miss Scott sent us to retrieve all footage for legal protection." Kirk didn't blink. At 2 a.m, the taller one smiled thinly. "Time zones, sir. Urgent matter." Rasheeda stepped beside him, her voice calm but firm. "We'll handle this with Mona directly. Good night." She shut the door before they could respond. Kirk exhaled, locking it tight. "They sent people to take it back. They know we got the proof." Rasheeda looked at him, panic creeping in. "So what now? They'll just keep coming." Kirk paced. "No, we finish this on our terms." Meanwhile, across the city, Mona Scott sat in her hotel room, phone buzzing nonstop. Her assistant whispered, "Legals saying Kirk might have taken a copy of the footage." Mona rubbed her temples. "Of course he did. That man don't play." She picked up the phone and called an executive in New York. "Listen," she said sharply, "whoever authorized that strategy memo better start packing. If Kirk drops that footage online, we're not just losing a show, we're losing love in hip-hop Atlanta." Back at the Frost home, Kirk connected the USB to a backup drive. Rasheeda sat beside him, still trembling. "You realize what happens if this goes public? VH1 will blacklist us." Kirk shook his head. "They already did when they played with our name." He started copying files, the progress bar crawling across the screen. Suddenly, the power flickered, the lights dimmed, the laptop screen went black, then rebooted. "No, no, no," Rasheeda whispered. Kirk slammed the desk. "They hacked us." A faint tapping echoed on the back door. Kirk grabbed a baseball bat and motioned Rasheeda to stay behind. He swung the door open, but no one was there. Only an envelope on the porch, stamped with VH1's logo. He picked it up, opening it slowly. Inside was a single note. "Stop now. This is your final warning." Rasheeda's voice cracked. "They threatening us." Kirk threw the letter on the counter. "Nah. They scared." By morning, social media exploded again. A short clip from the unreleased footage leaked anonymously to an underground gossip page. It showed Kirk shouting at a producer, "You don't control my marriage, you control the edit." Within hours, it had 2 million views. Comments flooded in. "He's right, they've been exploiting them. VH1 going down for this." VH1 denied involvement, but fans weren't buying it. #Justice for Rasheeda began trending. In the midst of the chaos, Rasheeda received a call from an unfamiliar number. She hesitated before answering. A woman's voice whispered, "Rasheeda, it's Tina, the editor who got fired last week. I know what they did. They cut the footage to make it look like you agreed to the leak." Rasheeda's breath caught. Tina continued, "They needed you to look complicit so they could save love and hip-hop Atlanta. I have my own backup. I can prove it." Rasheeda looked at Kirk, eyes wide. "Where can we meet?" Tina replied, "The warehouse near Studio 4. Tonight." Then the line went dead. That evening, the Frosts drove to the deserted industrial lot. Rain poured hard, echoing against metal roofs. Tina appeared from the shadows, clutching a hard drive. "They fired me because I refused to delete the evidence," she said, handing it over. "There's a chain of emails showing this was ordered from the top. They used your pain to create drama spikes." Kirk took the drive carefully. "Thank you, you did the right thing." Tina looked terrified. "Be careful. They're watching everything. They got trackers on your car." Rasheeda froze. "What?" Tina nodded. "Check under the bumper." Just as she said it, headlights flashed across the lot. 2 black sedans pulled up, engines rumbling. Kirk grabbed Rasheeda's hand. "Run." They dashed through puddles, splashing water as doors slammed behind them. Voices shouted, "Stop, VH1 legal." Kirk laughed bitterly. "Legal my ass." They slipped through a side gate, escaping into the rain-soaked streets of Atlanta. By the time they reached their car, Rasheeda's phone buzzed again. Mona calling. She answered breathlessly. "Mona, they after us." Mona's voice was tight, urgent. "Listen to me, both of you. Go somewhere safe. Do not post anything. I'm handling this internally." Kirk cut in. "Nah, Mona, it's gone too far. We got proof now." Mona paused. "I believe you, but there's something you don't know." Kirk frowned. "What?" She sighed. "The person who ordered the leak. It wasn't corporate. It was someone in your own circle." Silence. Rasheeda's eyes widened. "Someone close to us." Mona's voice softened. "Real close. I'm sending you the name now. But be ready, it's gonna hurt." The message pinged seconds later. Rasheeda unlocked it, stared, and gasped. Her lips trembled as she whispered the name. Kirk's face went blank. "No, it can't be." The name on the screen was Kelsey Frost, Kirk's own daughter. The world around them seemed to stop. Thunder rolled overhead as Rasheeda whispered, "Why would she do that?" Kirk's voice broke. I don't know, but we're gonna find out. He gripped the steering wheel, fury simmering under his breath. Rasheeda looked out the window, tears streaking down her face. She's family, Kirk. This is beyond betrayal. Kirk nodded slowly, his eyes dark. Family or not, she just started a storm she can't control. By dawn, Kirk's phone blew up again, messages from producers, fans, even other cast members. One from Scrappy Reed. Bro, I heard about Kelsey. Tell me it ain't true. Another from Yandi, said Mona's losing her mind trying to save this show. But Kirk wasn't responding to anyone. He was already on his way to find his daughter. Meanwhile, at VH1 headquarters, panic spread. An emergency board call revealed that a rival network had caught wind of the internal chaos and was preparing a documentary. Exposed titled Reality TV, The Frost Deception. Executives feared lawsuits, advertisers fled, and staff whispered about mass resignations. The once mighty brand was cracking, and at its center were two people who refused to stay silent. Kirk and Rasheeda arrived at a small condo complex on the west side, where Kelsey lived. He knocked hard. She opened the door, eyes red, guilt written all over her face. Dad, I was trying to protect you, she said before he could speak. They told me if I didn't help, they'd cut you from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. I thought leaking that clip would make them back off. Kirk stepped closer, voice low but trembling. You sold us out to save me, she cried. I didn't think it'd blow up like this. I swear. Rasheeda's voice cracked from behind him. Baby, you should have come to us. Kelsey sobbed. I tried, but they threatened me. They said they'd ruin Frost Bistro. Shut down your stores. Kirk stared at her, heartbroken. You could have told me. I would have handled it. She shook her head. You don't get it, Dad. They had everything, contracts, footage, even private calls. As the family stood in silence, Kirk's phone buzzed again, an unknown number. One last message. You think you've exposed us, but the game just began. The color drained from his face as he read it aloud. Rasheeda looked at him in disbelief. What does that mean? Kirk exhaled slowly. It means somebody higher up just declared war. And as the morning sun broke through the clouds, the Frosts stood together in that tiny apartment, unaware that their every move was already being monitored by the very people they thought they'd escaped. The morning light barely filtered through the blinds when Kirk's phone rang again, vibrating violently on the counter. He hesitated before answering. Hello? A distorted voice came through, calm but chilling. You were warned, Mr. Frost. You should have walked away. Kirk froze. Who is this? The line crackled. You've got something that doesn't belong to you. Return it, and maybe your brand survives the week. Then silence. Rasheeda looked at him, eyes wide with fear. What did they say? Kirk clenched his jaw. They said we were warned. As he hung up, his phone pinged again, a new email with a subject line that read Final Offer. Inside was a message from an encrypted sender. Transfer all copies of the leak material to VH1 Legal within 24 hours or face breach of contract litigation. Material to VH1 Legal within 24 hours or face breach of contract litigation. Below that was an attachment to draft lawsuit already prepared. Rasheeda stared at it, her voice trembling. They're trying to scare us into silence. Kirk nodded. They think we'll fold. They don't know who they dealing with. Meanwhile, Mona Scott Young sat in a dimly lit conference room in New York, surrounded by legal advisors and network executives. She slammed a folder shut. This whole thing is spiraling, she said, her tone sharp. Kirk and Rasheeda have the receipts. The fans are turning, and if they go public, we lose not just Atlanta, but the entire brand. One executive leaned forward. We can spin it, make them look unstable, say it's personal drama gone too far. Mona glared. You pull that stunt, and you'll be dealing with me. They've given their lives to this franchise. Her assistant leaned in, whispering, what if they already sent the footage to someone else? Mona's expression shifted. Then we're not dealing with a scandal anymore. We're dealing with exposure. Back in Atlanta, Kirk sat at the dining table, staring at the USB. If we post this, he said slowly, it's over for them. Rasheeda frowned. And maybe for us too. Kirk leaned back, thinking, unless we control the narrative first. Rasheeda tilted her head. How? He looked at her with that familiar spark of strategy in his eyes. We tell our own story, we leak it, but on our terms. Rasheeda hesitated. You mean go live? Kirk nodded. Yeah, tonight. We stream it raw, no edit, no filter, just truth. She sighed, rubbing her temples. You're talking about going against VH1 Live on their own platform. Kirk smirked. If they can use our pain for views, so can we. Across town, word of Kirk's plans started spreading through the cast group chats. Scrappy texted, Yo bro, if y'all going live, I'm there. This network been shady for years. Erica Mena replied. About time somebody exposed them. Even Spice chimed in. They play too much WID people's real life. Do it. But while some cheered them on, others warned them to tread carefully. Mimi sent a voice note saying, y'all know they'll come for your contracts, your endorsements, everything. Kirk replied simply, let 'em try. By 6 p.m., social media was buzzing with rumors. Kirk and Rasheeda about to go live with receipts against VH1 trended across X. Blogs started speculating what they had. One headline read, Frosts vs. VH1, the truth behind the leak war. Fans flooded their comments, begging for answers. We standing with y'all no matter what. One wrote. Another warned, be careful. They play dirty. Inside their living room, Kirk set up 2 cameras, checked the lighting, and placed the USB beside the laptop. Rasheeda sat next to him, her face calm but tense. You ready? She asked softly. He nodded. Been ready since the night they played with my name. She took a deep breath. Then let's do it. As soon as the live stream started, thousands of viewers joined within minutes. Kirk began, voice steady but loaded with anger. We've been quiet for too long. They made us the face of their drama. But tonight, we tell the real story. Rasheeda followed. We gave love and hip-hop our lives, our marriage, our mistakes, our truth. And they used it to manipulate you. She clicked play on the first clip, the audio of producers plotting the leak. The chat exploded. Yo, this crazy. They really planned it. Cancel VH1. Messages flooded faster than the comments could load. Midway through the stream, the feed suddenly glitched. The screen went black, then froze. Kirk hit refresh, but the connection dropped entirely. They cutting us off, he said. Rasheeda's eyes widened. They hacking the stream. Kirk grabbed his phone to go live directly on Instagram. Within seconds, tens of thousands joined. They trying to shut us down, he told the audience. But you can't silence the truth. Mona, watching from her office, slammed her desk. They're live. How the hell did they get around the take? Her assistant stammered. Instagram's not under our legal jurisdiction. Mona cursed under her breath. Then brace for impact. Kirk uploaded snippets of the leaked audio one after another. Fans reposted. Influencers amplified it. And soon, even mainstream outlets began reporting. VH1 under fire for alleged staged manipulation. Within hours, sponsors started pulling ads. VH1 went into crisis mode. Statements were drafted, lawyers called, phones rang nonstop. But just as the Frosts began celebrating small victory, another shock hit. An anonymous account posted a new video clip, this one showing Kirk in a heated off-camera argument with a crew member. The caption read, "The Frosts aren't innocent either." The internet erupted. So they playing victim. This whole thing staged. Rasheeda stared at the screen, heart sinking. They fighting back. Kirk clenched his fists. They trying to twist it. Within minutes, bloggers and gossip sites split the story in two, half believing Kirk and Rasheeda were victims, half accusing them of pulling a stunt for publicity. One outlet even suggested that the entire feud was secretly a viral marketing plan for a new spin-off. Rasheeda threw her phone on the couch. They turning everything upside down. Kirk stood silent, staring at the wall. They always do. That's what they good at, control the story till you look like the villain. As night fell, Kirk got another call, this time from Mona. Kirk, listen, she said quietly. You made your point, but they're about to come for you hard. I've seen the emails. They're setting you up for breach of contract. They'll sue you for every dollar. Kirk replied coldly. Let 'em. I ain't backing down. Mona sighed. I respect that, but you gotta play smarter now. There's something you haven't seen yet. Kirk frowned. What's that? She hesitated. There's a file, a recording, one that proves everything you said and more. But it'll cost you. Kirk narrowed his eyes. How much? Mona whispered. Not money. Trust. The line went silent. Kirk finally asked, where is it? Mona replied, meet me at the studio tomorrow morning. No cameras, no phones. Before he could respond, she hung up. Rasheeda, listening from the couch, looked at him nervously. You really gonna meet her after all this? Kirk nodded. She's the only one who still got something to lose. That night, as they tried to rest, the storm outside matched the tension in their home. Thunder echoed. Wind rattled the windows. Rasheeda whispered in the dark. You think this will ever end? Kirk replied softly. Not till we take back control of our story. But just as he closed his eyes, a new alert flashed on his phone, a message from a private number, attached with a short video. The caption read, You think Mona's helping you? Think again. Kirk clicked play. The video showed Mona in a private boardroom, saying, if they don't cooperate, we'll release the footage ourselves. Kirk's blood ran cold. Rasheeda sat up. What is it? He turned the phone toward her, his voice trembling. "We just got played again." She covered her mouth. "So Mona's been working against us this whole time." Kirk nodded slowly. "She's been running both sides." As rain pounded the roof, the Frost family realized the war wasn't between them and VH1 anymore, it was between them and Mona Scott herself. And she wasn't about to lose. The war shifted into a new name, but the stakes felt the same. Instead of Kirk and Rasheeda, it was Kirk and Rasheeda, a couple whose lives VH1 had turned into a weekly ritual for millions. And where Mona once stood, there was Mona Scott, a titan in the reality world, commanding, polished, and terrifyingly pragmatic. When the couple realized Mona Scott might be playing both sides, the thing that had always made them famous turned into the thing that could ruin them. Kirk stared at the ceiling while Rasheeda slept fitfully beside him, the glow of their phones painting the bedroom in a sickly blue. "They're bigger than TV," he said finally, voice raw. "This is corporate. This is people with lawyers and power and pockets that never go empty." Rasheeda turned, rubbing her eyes. "Then we do what we always do. We fight, but smarter. We don't just throw receipts out there, we build an unbreakable narrative." Kirk nodded, but inside he felt the slow churn of doubt. How do you battle a machine that made you? The next morning, Rasheeda called a handful of people she trusted, not cast members, not publicists, real people who loved them before the lights. Aunt Veronica showed up at the boutique with 2 coffees and a look that said she'd been packing a bag to go to war. Before she even drank one sip, "You two don't need the circus," she said, handing them the coffee. "You need to take back what belongs to you, your story." Lena's hand shook as she sipped. "I need people to hear the truth without the filter," she whispered. "Not million clips, not 30-second headlines. The whole thing." Kirk made a quiet list. The people who could corroborate what they had. The editors who'd been pushed to cut for drama. The security tech who'd found traces of unauthorized transfers. The ex-producer who'd cried over ethics before they were sacked. The list felt dangerous in his palm, a map of allies and potential targets. But it was something. Mona Scott, from her high-rise office, watched the chatterboard and called in favors. She could see the spark of a counterattack forming, and for the first time she considered something she rarely permitted herself: vulnerability. If Kirk and Rasheeda exposed enough, Marla's network would face a reckoning that would cost more than ratings. In the meantime, the underground gossip channels kept churning. Anonymous posts hinted that the leaked footage was not the end but merely the first act. There were whispers of a second, darker archive. The end but merely the first act. There were whispers of a second, darker archive. Hours of raw, private footage that no one had ever seen. A rumor started that someone had compiled an archive, intended as insurance, the kind of cash that could drop a brand in a single upload. The existence of that archive moved the chessboard again. Suddenly everyone wondered, who had it and who was willing to sell it? Rasheeda reached out to an old friend from a different life, an investigative journalist who'd once promised to expose the system, not the victims. He agreed to help, but not publicly. That was the key. They set up encrypted meetings, handoffs in diners, thumb drives exchanged in the hollow of a napkin. "We'll verify everything," he told Lena. "If you want the world to believe you, we need the receipts stitched together like a legal case, not a gossip reel." Rasheeda breathed for the first time in days. This could work, but Marla's people sniffed danger early. She empowered a small, ruthless unit of crisis managers, the kind who specialize in rewriting history faster than the news cycle can spin it. They prepared leak narratives, selective releases, and controlled confessions. Small, damaging clips that painted Kirk as unstable, Rasheeda as complicit, and their daughter as misguided. The plan was simple: overshadow the truth with louder lies until the audience forgot which was which. It was a theater trick, old as scandal, and Mona Scott was a master puppeteer. The pressure reached a boiling point when a prominent sponsor sent a terse note: "Public optics must be addressed or ad contracts will vanish." Board members whispered of delaying the next season, of shelving reunion tapes until the fire cooled. Mona Scott slammed her palm on the table in a meeting and said one sentence that stopped the room cold: "We don't delay, we escalate." She wanted to own the narrative by creating a controlled spectacle so spectacular it would distract from the leak. She'd used this lie-before strategy before, and it worked until now. Desperation breeds strange alliances. Kirk tracked down a junior editor who'd been quietly furious about being forced to doctor confessionals. She'd kept copies. She'd kept a conscience. The junior editor handed over files, raw takes showing producers coaching lines, notes telling talent make it worse, timestamps that matched no public episode. The audio was chilling, the emails even more so. Rashid listened in a quiet room with the journalist, her fingers white-knuckled around the edge of the table. "We can make a legal claim," the journalist said. "But first, we publish a timeline, show how it was engineered." Rasheeda, timeline then blowout. "We control the order. They built a plan. Drop a concise dossier on noon Thursday, verified, notarized, and emotionally painful in all the right ways." Then, at 6 p.m., a long-form live session where Kirk and Rasheeda would walk the audience through the documents. It was risky, it was raw, and it was the only way to make sure the truth didn't get swallowed by noise. When Mona Scott heard the rumor of a dossier, she went cold. She deployed the distraction unit, a carefully leaked private tape showing Kirk in an unflattering light. A smear meant to make his later testimony seem self-serving. The smear worked on half the internet. Some fans froze, others doubled down. The narrative tug-of-war was brutal and public. Rasheeda felt each accusation like a hand against her throat. Friends called to warn her about legal exposure. Strangers sent threats, but beneath the chaos, a different current was forming. A cadre of former staffers, editors, and assistants who began to surface with corroboration. Their bravery changed the equation. One by one, people who'd been silenced for years started to speak. On the eve of the dossier drop, Kirk received a package. Inside, a cheap camera and a single note: "We watch." The handwriting was familiar, not Marla's corporate neatness, but amateur. Like someone who'd once worked in production and knew the rhythm of late-night shoots. Kirk understood the message. They were being watched not just by corporate eyes, but by insiders who feared exposure. That night, he slept for the first time in days with his phone tucked under his pillow, the weight of it like a stone. Noon came. The dossier hit an independent platform and an encrypted news outlet. The journalist presented it like evidence in a case: emails, recorded meetings, pay stubs, timestamps, and a chain of custody that left little room for fabrication. The internet fractured. The outlets that had rushed to paint Kirk and Rasheeda's publicity-seeking now had to reckon with the cold paper trail. Advertisers squealed. Marla's office called an emergency press strategy meeting. She looked at the file, then at her legal team, and for a rare moment, she was the one who hesitated. By 6, Kirk and Rasheeda live on a platform that could not be easily taken down. They walked the audience through the dossier, their voices steady, their anger refined into narrative. They played clips, then paused to contextualize. They read emails aloud and let the silence hang heavy after each revelation. Viewers watched, some with disbelief, some with vindication. The chat filled with support, donations, calls for boycotts. The momentum felt real. And then, as if sculpted for maximum drama, the server, hosting the independent dossier, experienced technical difficulties. An unexpected outage that sent the internet into a second panic. Fingers pointed to Marla's team. Denials flew. Conspiracy theories blossomed. Across the city, a lone figure in a cramped studio watched the feed, hands steady, and whispered, "Not today." She redoubled efforts to mirror the dossier on multiple platforms. Copies multiplied like seeds in wind. The more they tried to bury it, the more it resurfaced. Marla, sensing a loss of control, changed tactics. Instead of continuing to suppress, she offered an olive branch, a mediated sit-down, exclusive, with strict conditions. She framed it as an attempt to heal Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. Mona Scott was a strategist. Healing could be spun into a triumphant return. Many advisors told Kirk and Rasheeda, take it, the stage would be theirs to control. But Rasheeda looked at Kirk and shook her head. We came this far to let her set the terms. They declined. The world watched as two titans of the medium refused the reconciliation that would have shut the story down. The standoff escalated into legal maneuvers. Marla's team filed injunctions, claiming proprietary theft. Kirk and Rasheeda counters for unauthorized exploitation and emotional damages. Court filings began to leak, each more damning than the last. A judge in Atlanta ordered a temporary freeze on certain assets while discovery continued. The legal system, usually slow and languid, was now a front line. As discovery unfolded, new names surfaced, people in Marla's inner circle who'd quietly disagreed with the strategy from the start. Some turned state's witness in the court of public opinion, releasing testimony that matched the dossier. Others remained silent, protected by non-disclosure agreements that only held until the public decided the moral side of the fight. Weeks bled into months. Love and Hip Hop Atlanta's ratings initially spiked scandal cells, but sponsors worried about brand safety. Executives debated whether to shelve Love and Hip Hop Atlanta permanently or reinvent it around transparency. Mona Scott launched a rebranding campaign, emphasizing growth and lessons learned. But the public's taste for authenticity had shifted. People wanted truth, not polished regret. Through it all, Kirk and Rasheeda stood in the middle of the storm, battered but not broken. Their relationship, tested as it was on cameras and headlines, found a new axis: defense of their family's integrity. Each new revelation became a brick in a larger wall they were building, a wall not to keep the world out, but to keep the truth in. And while VH1 scrambled, and while Mona Scott plotted counterattacks, a quieter revolution began behind the scenes. Former reality workers, the editors, producers, and assistants started advocating for ethical guidelines. They formed a coalition, drafted proposals for consent, and demanded a seat at the table when shows were planned. It was small at first, but it planted a seed that threatened to change the industry's calculus. The battle wasn't over. Mona Scott was still powerful. The legal system was unpredictable. Public attention could waver. But one thing had shifted irreversibly. The audience, once content to consume pain as entertainment, was learning to ask hard questions about who benefits when private lives become public drama. And for Kirk and Lena, that change was more valuable than any ratings spike. It was the beginning of a future where stories might be told with consent, not constructed from someone else's wounds. The night after the dossier drop felt unreal, like the city itself was holding its breath. Rain drummed against the windows while Rasheeda sat at the edge of the bed, watching the screen glow with endless notifications. Every outlet was talking about them. Every feed, every post, every whisper on live radio carried the same headline: VH1 Empire on trial. Kirk stood by the window, his reflection fractured in the glass, the storm outside matching the one inside his chest. "They're still spinning it," he murmured. "They're saying we faked half of it for sympathy. Rasha didn't look up. Rasha didn't look up. They'd rather call us liars than admit what they've done." He turned, voice breaking just enough to sound human again. "They're not just after the story anymore. They're after us." She stood and walked toward him slowly, her hand brushing his arm. "Then we stand taller." Across town, Mona Scott's penthouse was lit only by the glow of half a dozen phones. Screens blinked, calls buzzed unanswered. Assistants hovered by the door too afraid to speak. Mona Scott stared at the news broadcast in silence, the camera capturing her carefully curated smile from an old interview, a ghost of control that was slipping away. She whispered to herself, "They think this ends me." Then, louder, "No, we reframe. We always reframe." She picked up her phone and dialed a private number. "Phase 2, she said. "Release the archive teaser." The voice on the other end hesitated. "Are you sure? It'll make everyone look dirty, even you. Especially me, Mona. That's the point. If I bleed, they bleed too. No one comes out clean." By morning, the world woke to a new leak, shaky behind-the-scenes footage showing the cast of another reality show arguing about pay, producers shouting off camera, even Mona Scott herself swearing at an assistant. It was chaos, deliberate chaos, and it worked. News anchors shifted focus from Kirk and Lena's fight for truth to the bigger picture scandal across the entire network brand. Headlines screamed reality empire implodes. The narrative had mutated again, the truth buried under 1,000 louder noises. Kirk watched it unfold with a kind of cold clarity. "She's burning her own house to smoke us out." Rasheeda closed her eyes, whispering, "And the public loves the fire." The next few days blurred together. Lawyers, interviews, security checks, anonymous threats. People they once called friends vanished overnight, afraid to pick sides. The journalist who had helped them disappeared from the city without warning. His phone went straight to voicemail. His website went offline. Rasheeda stared at her inbox, reading the last email he sent before vanishing. "Trust only paper. They can erase screens, not ink." That night, Kirk printed everything. Hundreds of pages, contracts, memos, screenshots, transcripts, spreading across the floor like a paper ocean. Rasheeda joined him, helping tape pieces together in a timeline that filled the living room wall. It wasn't just evidence anymore. It was a story, raw and human. The late-night lamp flickered over their faces, painting them like two soldiers mapping a war they didn't start but refused to lose. Meanwhile, Mona Scott appeared on a late-night talk show, perfectly styled, her tone contrite but commanding. "Mistakes were made," she said smoothly, "but growth comes from conflict. We're rebuilding trust." The audience applauded on cue. The host leaned forward. "What about the Rasheeda?" Marla's smile never wavered. "They're family. Families fight. And families heal. I wish them peace." It was the performance of a lifetime. Social media split in half again. Some applauded her grace, others called it gaslighting in designer heels. But Mona Scott didn't care about opinions. She cared about control, and she was taking it back piece by piece. 2 days later, Kirk got an invitation, a handwritten letter sealed in black wax. No return address, just a time and location. Midnight, Studio 7. The abandoned soundstage where Season 1 had been filmed. Rasheeda wanted to burn it immediately. "This is bait," she said. Kirk stared at the letter, tracing the edges with his thumb. "Maybe, but if she's calling me there, it means she's desperate. And desperate people slip." The air inside the old studio was heavy with dust and memory. The same floor where laughter and betrayal had once been filmed now echoed with silence. Mona Scott stood under a single light, her heels clicking against concrete. "You came," she said, almost tender. "You left me no choice," Kirk replied. She smiled faintly. "You always have a choice. That's what makes you dangerous." They circled each other like ghosts of their former selves. Marla's voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't understand the level of this. The footage, the leaks, the headlines, it's all distraction. There's something else coming. Something bigger than me, than you, than this show." Kirk frowned. "What are you talking about?" She stepped closer, lowering her voice until it trembled. "VH1's being sold. Foreign investors. They want clean hands and dirty numbers. We were all pawns. I thought I could control it. I was wrong." For the first time, Kirk saw fear in her eyes. Not performance, not strategy, real fear. "Then help me fix it," he said quietly. "Help me tell the truth before they erase everything." She hesitated, looking at him like a woman staring at her own reflection years too late. "Truth," she whispered. "That's the one thing they never let you keep." Before he could answer, the studio doors burst open, bright lights, security, flashing cameras. A swarm of reporters poured in, tipped off by an anonymous source. Marla's eyes widened. "They followed you." Kirk shook his head. "No, they followed you." The next morning, every outlet carried the same grainy footage. Kirk and Mona Scotton, a tense, shadowed confrontation. Captions screamed secret midnight meeting. Betrayal caught on tape. VH1's official statement labeled Kirk a rogue talent. The smear was complete, surgical, and almost perfect. But Mona Scott underestimated one thing, Lena. While the world obsessed over the leaked confrontation, Rasheeda released a hidden cut of her own. The full unedited conversation, filmed quietly from a second angle by a small camera Kirk had left recording on his wristwatch. The world saw everything. Marla's confession, the fear, the truth about the investors. Within hours, every media outlet reversed its story. The internet turned again, this time with fury that even Mona Scott couldn't reframe. VH1 began to crumble. Sponsors froze funding, shareholders demanded resignations, and Mona Scott vanished from public view. No press releases, no interviews, just silence. In that silence, Kirk and Rasheeda finally exhaled. They had survived the story that was supposed to destroy them. But as they watched the city lights flicker from their balcony, Rasheeda whispered the question that hung heavier than victory. What if we just became the new version of them? What if our truth turns into someone else's content? Kirk looked at her, his voice quiet. "Then we make sure the next story isn't built on someone's pain." The night stretched long, the storm easing into quiet. Somewhere, in the ruins of VH1 that once controlled their lives, new voices were rising, creators demanding transparency, audiences craving authenticity, and a generation learning that truth, once freed, has a life of its own. And for Kirk and Lena, that was enough to start again. And that's where the dust finally settled, or at least, that's what the headlines want you to believe. Because even now, deep inside VH1 vaults, whispers still echo about a missing drive. One final file that could rewrite everything we think we know about Kirk, Lena, and Mona Scott. Maybe it's gone forever. Maybe someone's still holding it, waiting for the perfect moment to drop another bomb. But for now, VH1 has fallen silent. And the couple who once lived under the lights are finally standing in their own truth. No cameras, no scripts, no producers, just reality, raw and unedited. Still, one question remains. Was this the end of the story, or just the calm before another storm? You tell us, what do you think really happened behind those studio doors? Do you believe the truth finally came out, or do you think there's more hiding under the surface? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. And if you want to keep following the twists, the secrets, and the fallout from this explosive saga, make sure you hit that like button, share this video with someone who lives for the drama, and most importantly, tap subscribe and turn on all notifications, because in this world, nothing stays buried for long, and the next revelation might drop any minute. Stay tuned, stay curious, and remember, in the land of fame and fabrication, even the truth knows how to perform. Even the truth knows how to perform.